What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Prox here, bringing you guys a brand new video today. Hopefully you're doing quite well, enjoying life a little bit. We have an absolutely exciting topic to talk about today, spent a lot of time developing it. But before we get started into that, I wanted to ask you guys the question of the day. What is your favorite feature in XDefiant currently? Please let us know down in the comments below. I would love to see and read more. And the topic for today is why XDefiant needs a trait overhaul. Before we go into that deep rabbit hole, I want to kind of talk a brief moment about the current system that's in place for XDefiant. Currently in XDefiant, each faction is only offering a singular passive trait. The current system we have is by no means bad. I actually enjoy this faction-based hero shooter as a whole. And it doesn't go to the extremes for a game, say like Overwatch, where each individual character has totally singular and rigid classes. With the XDefiant's creative team taking more of a relaxed approach, I actually believe this overhaul will benefit the game significantly as a whole, ultimately adding to more diversity and fun within each faction, allowing every player feel more unique across each and every match. And while of course, providing an opportunity to silence any and all critics that want this game to feel more like a particular shooter that I will not name. So I say let's dive into it with some visuals that I created. So let's start off with the fun thing first and foremost. I'm going to pop up a visual right now that I created, a graphic of the XDefiant trait overhaul. We're going to be using Echelon as a reference point for this new trait system. So the first thing you initially notice is instead of one passive trait now on display, each faction is going to offer 2 traits. Now you may be asking why only 2 traits? Why not 3? Why not 4 or multiple? Well, we also have to keep in mind with the XDefiant developers that they are actively going to be adding new factions each season, at least for the first year. And we want to kind of give them some wiggle room in terms of the diversity of each faction and what traits they can provide. Also, the biggest thing for me is that each special trait per faction ties to the theme of that faction. So looking at it a bit more, we notice that we're bringing low profile over from the already active passive trait that's being provided for Echelon. However, if you notice below, the new one added is called Shadow Step. It's where your character has quieter footsteps at the cost of total movement speed. So the second big difference between this is if you notice that each passive not only has their positive trait, but it also has a negative trait. And we're going to dive in a little bit later on why I chose to do that. Now, last but not least, before we dive in further, I would like to preface this that selecting these traits are going to function the exact same as the current system we have. Like when you load into a match, you choose the faction you want to play, the ultimate ability you want to use, as well as your loadout. The only difference is now there's a trait option. So I'm going to pull up another graphic real quick, and it says what would change. I'm just going to go over this one more time. There's really only 3 key pillars. The first is now each faction has 2 passives to choose from. Each passive now offers a positive and negative impact to your gameplay. And lastly, you can change your passive at any time during the game. Now, the big question you're probably wondering, why have negative impacts to each trait? Well, ultimately, this will help displace tight singular option metas per faction, really ultimately encouraging each playstyle to have a risk versus reward ratio. So I'm providing an example here. The new Echelon faction's passive Shadow Step opens for more stealth or flank opportunities, but at the cost of movement speed, that being your sprint and slide, which makes you have to be a bit more deliberate in your movement and also encourages people to use attachments that are not used very often, like suppressors. Now I'm going to kind of dive back into why I think changing this system is going to be really effective. I believe that it's going to increase faction diversity across matches and provide more personality to each playstyle, making teams that are picking multiple of the same faction more diverse across the board. And this means with each passive means more classes, different weapon types and varieties, continuing to engage and challenge that status quo of meta. And ultimately, I do believe that this is a fun and creative spin on a perk system that is different enough to not be compared to other titles, which a lot of people are trying to do nowadays with XDefiant. Now, of course, for just a quick moment, I'd like to speak to Mark Rubin. I'm by no means a game developer, but I have passion for this title. I have trust in your team and faith in the longevity of this game and potential franchise. And regardless if this alternative solution is the right way or not to move forward, I'm excited to see where your team takes the next steps. Hopefully one day I can have an opportunity to meet with you, collaborate some ideas, and not be a burden, but have some fun with it. I'm always passionate about this stuff. So thank you, Mark, and the team at XDefiant and Ubisoft doing everything you can to make the best game possible. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the end of the video. I know, a bit of a shorter video today, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, and continue to comment if you think this was a good idea and if you'd like to see more content like this. Until next time, Take it easy.